right, start recording Krypton check-in. So I think the testnet made it through a reboot cycle. That's progress. Anyone, I know that we've had some problems with the relay network, but I think my PR fixes them. I should hopefully get that merged today. Anything else on Krypton check-in anyone wants to talk about?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any other sort of, sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, no, I was just saying nothing from me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the sort of the biggest issues we've had have mostly all been around relaying of transactions. So outside of that, I'm not aware of like any other bucket of issues.
So, I mean, there's a few things, right? There's transaction relays weren't working. There's really no excuse for this, but the miner and the follower and every other miner weren't building on the same fork. That's been like a chronic problem we've had. I think my PR actually fixes this. And we've also had the problem of the miner and follower sometimes falling behind each other, like by a few blocks. My PR should also fix this. So general shittiness of Krypton is going to go away, hopefully, with this PR.
And you had mentioned, Jude, in your message, I think on Discord, that there were some configuration issues. Is that also part of your PR, the configuration changes?
Yeah, but they're not as big of an impact as you would think. Part of the issue was that we were waiting too long for mining a block. And that was not without reason. Like, you would want to do that because up until now, at least, the code had been structured in a way where you would want there to be a good chance that the stacks block arrives and you process it before you try to build your own block. And in doing so, hopefully you build on the canonical chain tip. But the slew of other issues, like problems with relaying, problems with block discovery, have been inhibiting even that from happening. So with my changes, those issues should go away, hopefully. At least when I run local miners together, they easily build off each other's blocks, and they have no problems relaying to each other.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll try it out and see. I'm going to try to set up a wholly separate test net today, just so I can have faster iteration cycles when I try to do things. This is also in the service of getting microblocks to work, because if relaying is broken, then microblocks aren't going to work, period. So I'll be setting that up. It will expose some extra data. We can play with it. We can try more experimental things. We can treat it more as a throwaway, because it's not a product. It's just us trying to break things and trying to diagnose problems, and just have, generally speaking, faster iteration times between reboots. So I'll let you know when that's up and running.
Cool.
Cool. Let's go through the board. All right, well, this is my PR. I see Aaron and Pascal have started to comment on it. Hopefully we can get that merged sooner rather than later, because it makes the experience of using testnet a lot better. Not much to report there, or at least not much that needs to be said right now about it. It's mostly just small networking fixes. I guess one thing to point out is that I don't yet have a good slew of tests for them, because in order to test the networking relay changes, you kind of need to have multiple stacks nodes running in parallel. So the thing I'll be working on in parallel to this is making it so that we can at least have some sort of GitHub action, like run some basic tests, like do two miners produce a chain of length n blocks after n sortitions? Or if I send 1,000 transactions, will they all end up in everybody's mempool? Things like that. Moving on. I give some feedback on Matt's PR, and so far it's looking really good. I guess like maybe the only question I had remaining, Matt, is can we start to test this using the mainnet data set? Because things like verifying the database, verifying the exported JSON can take a long time, just due to the sheer size of the database.
Yeah, that would be good to do. I think we have to get DevOps involved because of the file size of production and like just the time it takes to sync network-wise. It'd be hard to do locally.
You shouldn't need to. What you can do is you can do you can just grab a snapshot from the snapshot server and just try that directly using the tool you wrote.
Okay, I can give that a shot. I just wasn't familiar with which snapshots were available, if they were recent.
Oh yeah, we have a server that continuously generates them so people can boot up nodes quickly. I can show you offline how to get a hold of a snapshot file.
Okay. Do you know how big that is? I think I was asking Jay Wiley a while ago, but he said the full directory was like pretty huge.
A compressed snapshot, it's on the order of a gigabyte.
Well, uncompressed, like in order to run locally.
Oh, that's a little bit bigger. That's maybe 5 gigabytes. Other thing to keep in mind is you'll want to have a lot of free inodes. So if you do df-i, you can see how many inodes you have free. You're going to need at least 2 million.
Gotcha. Okay.
Probably more like 10 million actually, just because we have directories as well. So,
should we comment on the issue, like something about trying to get production running?
yeah, let me see if I can get this open here. No, you don't need 5 million. I'm sorry. I was thinking each name had its own zone file, but most of the names are off chain. So let's just shoot for at least 100,000. It should be all right. Just add that in the comment. All right, review in progress. Ludo, how are we doing on this? With the building the chain on the anchored testnet, anchored to the Bitcoin testnet.
I think I have to.
You muted, Ludo.
Oh, sorry. Is it better?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that it's in current state. The PR is conflicting against next, so I need to push some changes. And I think I still have some feedbacks to address. So yeah, work in progress.
Okay, cool. This is related, I guess, Matt. Same situation here. We're just waiting to test on mainnet.
Yeah, I think so. And also, yeah, if Aaron, you could take a look at it. And I think, Jude, you have to comment on the PR after this one, but it more addresses this one, which is what happens when you're running this mode in production, if it will shut down the node.
I see. Yeah, I will go ahead and take a look at that.
Okay.
All right. Aaron, is this ready for review? Using slog?
Yeah.
Okay, you cut out the slog async package.
Yeah, slog async is cut out, and then slog JSON is a compile time option. Yeah.
Go ahead and take a look then today. Pascal, I think this PR is superseded, unless you believe otherwise.
Probably, yeah. I would have to. There might be like a few tweaks I can make to your PR, but most likely yes.
Okay. We'll just leave this alone until we're all satisfied.
Right. Yeah.
1980 closes it. Okay. This will imminently be closed, right, Aaron? JSON logging for all log entries.
Yeah, I think it's just the same issue.
Yeah, I think so. And same with this one. You have another.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, in progress. Limit broadcast for duplicate message payloads. I have not yet started this because I got waylaid by fixing testnet problems, but this is on my plate for this week. Matt, I think you're still also in progress with this. We're just, I'm going to be testing on mainnet, and I'll be commenting on some of the gotchas you might encounter with it.
Yep.
Cool. Reed, how are we doing on the Rust code to inspect clarity code to evaluate minor set cost functions?
Yeah, this is still in progress. I'm currently finishing up changes to the cost tracker, and then the remaining piece is just changing, like refactoring the parts of the code that actually call out to the cost functions, which should be relatively simple, but I think it's probably a lot of different areas in the code that need to get changed, but it's a simple refactor. So yeah, coming close to the finishing line on this.
And don't be afraid to send a PR earlier in draft status, like if you want
Sure.
to talk about it.
Yeah, sounds good. And I'd love to do like a maybe like a PR review with whoever's interested, where we can walk through it.
Yeah, that'd be great actually, if you want to send a calendar invite.
Sure. Yeah. Once I'm like, once it's like really close, I'll send the invite.
Cool. And that also applies for these remaining in progress issues, right? SIPs.
Yeah. These are just kind of like related issues. So there's the SIP one. There's the Clarity in situ upgrade proposal, which is just kind of the issue that encapsulates all of this work. What else? Yeah, and then I think that's really all that's there actually. I think the in situ ones are linked.
Yeah,
if I
gotcha.
recall.
Ludo, how are we doing on the BNS issues, zone file storage and zone file replication?
I've had some good progress last week. So the goal is to open a PR by the end of the week. But yeah, so at this point, I have the ability to post a zone file and I have the back and forth working between like a node trying to get the inventory from other peers and the response. So now I need to have the node downloading the actual zone files. But yeah, I'm seeing the light. So I'm pretty excited.
Cool. Do you think you'll have a PR sometime this week?
Yeah, by the end of the week, hopefully on Friday. At least a draft on Friday. Maybe I won't have enough tests, but yeah, I'm shooting for, I'm aiming at opening the PR on Friday.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to that.
Cool.
I left some comments, Aaron, on your PR here for 2 reward versus per block. Otherwise, I think it looks like it's in pretty good shape. But I think we're still waiting for Ludo's review.
Yeah, I think I have also addressed most of those comments.
Cool. I'll take a look. Backlog issue. I looked at this node relays a transaction, but it does not store it. I haven't been able to duplicate it yet. It might have been an artifact of some other problem. I'll keep my eyes open for it while testing, but I'll leave this open. In the meantime, I'm just saying I've been able to successfully relay thousands of transactions, but I haven't seen this manifest yet. It might have been related to the fact that we weren't using a canonical public key encoding.
Yeah.
We just talked about these. So microblock stuff, I'm going to start this week. Now that I have enough of a network testing framework that I can confidently test microblock relaying. But maybe that's 70% of the way through refactoring the chain state so that we index microblock streams by their tail hash instead of their head hash. And in doing so, we can store multiple microblock forks at once, which as we discussed earlier, is going to be necessary to support poison microblocks. 1745, I think, is fixed by PR 1980. So we'll just play it by ear. We'll test it in the next testnet reset, and like I said, I'll have a prototype testnet, a separate prototype testnet up and running with this fix applied so we can verify it.
Are you sure that's enough? Because if there's a lot of blocks to download, even if you keep updating, it might take more than a block time to get everything.
So if you, what my PR does is if you start to mine too early, it's all right because you'll retry building a block if you notice that a new Stacks chain tip has arrived since you mined your last block.
Right, but you might still send a block that is still early because
Yeah.
I think if there's too many blocks to catch up on, you might still do that.
But you won't be mining a block if there are blocks to catch up on.
I mean, you still might mine a block within, like, let's say it takes you 5 seconds to mine a block and the next block doesn't get relayed to you for 25 seconds or something.
Right. You won't, but the thing is though, you're not going to relay anything until you know that you won sortition, which is going to happen when the next Bitcoin block gets mined.
Right, but like that doesn't solve the like small forks problem that we're still seeing, because like you'll have mined a block, and then let's say you win the next sortition, you're winning it with a block that is mining off an earlier chain tip.
Yeah. So what can happen, as you pointed out, is if the chain tip you should have mined off of is late by more than one Bitcoin block, then yeah, that's unavoidable. But that's not what we're seeing happening in testnet right now. What we're seeing happening right now in testnet is you're seeing multiple miners mine at the same height, even though they have had ample time to receive the Stacks chain tip block to mine off of.
Yeah, that would have to see. I think I'm still optimistic that it might be fixed, but
yeah, there's like,
because I was able to duplicate the current behavior locally. And the minute I spin up a second miner is the minute I start to see a lot of short-lived forks with the current code logic. But with the replace by fee logic, that goes away completely.
I see. Yeah, but like just checking if you've received a new block during the course of mining your block, like that's not what?
It checks to see if the chain tip has changed, not that you got a new block.
I see. Yes. So even so, like it admits the possibility that, like, let's say you don't receive a block for 20 seconds or something, like you're still going to mine off of the wrong block before that block arrives.
Yes, that's correct.
Updates your chain tip.
However, that's why you use replace by fee. So consider this scenario. Suppose the Bitcoin block time is 10 minutes, right? And suppose that every minute I try to mine a new Stacks block. And now suppose that the latest Stacks block to ever be mined, like in the last sortition, arrives 9 minutes in. What will have happened is I will have sent a block commit to the Bitcoin mempool. And then when I see the new Stacks block with a minute left on the Bitcoin block, I will send a new block commit transaction for a new Stacks block that builds off of the latest Stacks tip that just arrived. And I'll send a block commit transaction that's replaced by fee. So it gets rid of my old block commit and replaces it with my new one in the Bitcoin mempool. So it's as if I waited for 9 minutes.
it might there still be a case where you know there's a new Bitcoin block, but you haven't seen the block. So in that case, you shouldn't be sending a new block because you know you need to wait for that block before you.
Well, if you see a new Bitcoin block, it's too late. Like if I'm a miner and I hold on to my Stacks block for like 20 minutes, no one can build off of it but me. That can't be helped. Like that's a consequence of me not releasing the block in a timely fashion. But again, the problem we've been seeing in testnet is I release the block and you get the block after you produce your block. And you don't try to replace your now stale block commit with a new block commit for a new Stacks block that builds off of my block.
Right, but this issue is a different one.
I mean, the consequence of mining too early is just what I said, though. You mine too early, you produce a sibling block, and now there's a now there's a small fork.
Right, but you could be mining like 1,000 block before the tip in that case, because you start 3 days or 2 days after the rest of the miners.
Yes. So if you look at the current Neon main loop, you don't even try to start mining until you're caught up.
Right, which was part of my my current PR. I forgot the number, but that was one of the things it was ensuring.
The
What-
yeah,
what-
that was the case through Argon. But with Krypton, the system won't even download all of the burn chain blocks, or even allow the sortitions, or even allow mining to happen until the POX watchdog has decided that the node is likely caught up.
I think we'll have to see, and hopefully that's fixed. Yes.
If not, then we can update the PR, because I'm sick and tired of this bug. I think everyone who uses the testnet is sick and tired of this bug.
Yeah, I think I can attest for that too. I'll try that today.
Cool. I think this can be closed. SIB007 delegation semantics. Are we, Aaron, do you think this is encoded in SIB007 yet?
Yeah, I think it is.
Cool. On Bitcoin stacking operations, I don't think this is assigned yet.
Yeah, not assigned yet.
Staying that way?
What?
Staying that way?
Yeah, I think it's staying that way until someone starts working on it, which I should be able to do later this week.
Awesome. Namespace registrar contract. Maybe this is something we can talk more about at the end, but so I'll just move on from this because I think there's a lot of design questions still need to be ironed out here. Sorry, we already talked about this off-chain name database, SIP for Bitcoin wire formats. This will be linked to whoever takes on the 1892 right here with the on Bitcoin stacking operations. This issue here, Marf block commits should not directly depend on POX fork. This is blocking from mainnet. Aaron, do you think we have a plan of attack for this, or?
I still think we lack a plan of attack. The problem is that the way that the Marf tries walk backwards is encoded in the Marf itself, right? Like there's a mapping of block height to Marf try ID.
Yes.
And that's problematic for the sortition DB. And yeah, it's problematic for this because it like mixes in this data, like the consensus hash and stuff like that.
Right.
So I think we need another strategy for doing this walk.
I guess like the big difficulty would arise if you have two stacks blocks that are the same, but end up on different POX forks.
Yes.
Because that could happen. That's
yeah.
Consensus hash.
Right. That's like why we want this to be the case. Like we want it to be the case that the Marf try ID does not depend directly on the POX fork, or sorry, the committed data, because you want it to be the case that like if someone is burning, like if someone is not descended from the anchor block and they burn to form their blocks, when the POX anchor block is like later revealed or whatever, like that person's burn commit should still be valid.
Right.
Yeah. So yes, this is a problem, and I don't think that we have the clearest path forward yet.
Do we want to consider addressing it in this current sprint, or is it too? Do we all have too much to do already?
I can take this on after finishing the POX sunsetting work.
Okay.
Because yeah, this is, I think, a mainnet blocker and also kind of an unknown. So better to try to tackle it early.
Once we get a better feeling of what it's going to entail to fix it.
Yeah.
New issues. So we got a new bug discovered in the trait implementation. Thanks for reporting it, Pascal.
Sure.
So let me see if I can summarize it correctly. When we have a trait implementation that contains a read-only function, we currently cannot call the trait implementation when given just the implementation time, right?
You can call it if it's from a defined public, but not from a defined read-only function.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think this is a bug. I think that this is more or less a feature request.
Yeah.
Like traits currently do not convey read-onliness.
But should they?
Yeah, they would need to, like, because read-only needs to be checked at compile time. Like it's not checked at runtime.
Could we check
Well,
it?
that fails at runtime, and it should, in the current implementation, it would need to be checked at runtime, but it fails.
It should fail at compile time because like at compile time.
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
it does.
Yeah, the analysis phase has to be pessimistic when it comes to trait functions because they don't convey whether or not they're a read-only function. So if you ever contract call through a trait, it has to assume that it's not read-only.
Right, but then that makes it impossible to use the RPC read-only method to call these. That's how
Oh, I see.
that's how I found out. Then you'd have to actually pay to get that read-only result.
Yeah, I think that this is a feature that we want to implement where traits definitions can convey whether or not their functions are
right. And they made a proposal to do that. I don't know if everybody agrees on my proposal. That's easy to implement, and I can get that done this week. But if people don't agree on the proposal and want to propose something else, that's fine too.
Yeah, I mean that proposal looked good to me. I can comment on the issue.
Okay, sounds good.
Sweet. So we'll make some progress on this. These P2P issues I brought up are minutia within the peer-to-peer implementation that are fixed in PR 1980. This particular one, when handshaking with a new neighbor, we weren't being aggressive enough in establishing outbound connections, and that in turn led to the behavior we see now with the follower falling behind by a few blocks from the master or vice versa. This other one, canonical public key hash, this is what the main cause of the relay problems were. The reason why a node would relay a transaction back to the person that sent it, even though that person was in the relayers list, is because we weren't doing a good job making sure we were using the right public key representation when we calculate the hash of that public key. This is now fixed. We are much stricter about requiring you to use the compressed representation. Time to next cycle. This is a feature request from Alex. I pointed out, he's pointing out that there's 3 API calls they need to do to calculate the time to next reward cycle begin. I replied to this already. I had said that 2 of these can only need to be called once ever because they're protocol constants. And that it's probably not the best for the Stacks node to try to calculate this for you because it doesn't really have a notion of time in the first place.
Yeah.
So this came in this week. I have a call with Gavin and Zan about this later on this week, where I can get more information. The high level concern they brought up is that Daemon Technologies needs to, it's currently maintaining a patched version of the Stacks node that implements their more complex mining functionality. And they were asking if it's possible to somehow spin this out or what to do in general when it comes to trying to keep a forked version of the mining software going. The reply that I sent back, and we'll hopefully get more clarity on when I have my call with them, is we do want to make a separate mining program. Like we want mining to happen outside of the Stacks node going forward. We just haven't gotten to doing that yet.
Hey, Jude, could I maybe ask if like Zan and Gavin can just join this call instead of having like the separate out-of-band conversation that most people here are not on or will not be on, unless you're planning to kind of record and share that separately.
I learned about this like 2 hours ago. So, and it's,
I mean, yeah, feel free to push back and ask them to join this call. I think this is the right forum for those conversations to happen. And then I've also been talking to Pascal, if he can help make some progress on this direction of having sort of this clean interface that miners can call into and build mining programs that can sit outside of the Stacks node. So directionally, if we're all agreed on that, I think Pascal might be able to actually move that forward in the next couple of weeks.
yeah, that would be great because the mining
Sure.
software really isn't the node's concern. I'm sorry, Pascal, I interrupted you.
I was just saying, sure. Or if the meeting has to happen with Dan and Gabe, and if I could attend,
Yeah,
that would also be a possibility. Although I agree with the Walker that this meeting would probably be best, but it's 11 p.m. for them in China, I think so.
yeah, I can ask them. I think that's a good idea for them to attend. I'm meeting with them at 10 p.m. tomorrow night Eastern. I can CC you, Pascal, but I don't know what
Yeah,
time.
that would work. 10 p.m. Eastern, that would work. 7 p.m.
Okay, I'll add you that invite.
Yeah, and like I was saying, Jude, I mean, your time is also quite valuable. So if you would rather not like have this one-off meeting with them, I think it's totally fine to just see if they can attend this meeting next week and then push this off until then.
Sure. They're kind of pressured for time though, because they're trying to get a hacking competition going, which is why I accepted it.
Yeah, understood. I mean, although like that, I think they're planning to start the context next week. So I don't know, even if you had this meeting tomorrow, if they're expecting that something meaningful will change between now and next Monday.
I have no idea.
Yeah, but unless with the testnet is fixed, and hopefully the PR will do that, I think the mining petition might be premature. But
yeah, I agree. We will want to make
Yeah,
this.
and they're aware. I've already told them to kind of keep an eye on that. So they're well aware of that.
Cool. This P2P issue, another stupid thing. We were sending the bind address as part of the list of neighbors. So we need to make it so the neighbor walk algorithm doesn't try to use it when connecting because it will just cause the walk to fail. This issue here is opened by Gina 10 days ago. Hardware requirements for running a node. I use this as an excuse to go and buy myself a Raspberry Pi 4 so I can confirm that that would actually work as a minimum hardware requirement. I'll let you all know this week if I can get it up and running.
Isn't Dan already running on Raspberry Pi? I think we have existence proof of mining working on Raspberry Pi.
Oh, sweet. Can you ask him to reply to this issue?
Sure.
Because I think he maintains like a bootable SD card image, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, he does.
Sweet.
Yeah, I would also add that this issue probably isn't answerable on either currently or on our repo. Like this is like an emergent property of the network. Like at some point, a Raspberry Pi is going to run out of space. Like the hard drive characteristics and requirements are going to change over time.
Yes and no. Like the Raspberry Pis don't have any storage of their own. You have to plug storage in. So you like my Pi, I plug into a 2 terabyte hard drive, for example. You can get it faster. You can get a faster device potentially if that's too slow.
Right. My point is just that hardware requirements in general are like going to change over time. Like space is a hardware requirement.
This is true.
your disk might end up costing you more than a Pi, but
I mean, sure. Raspberry Pis are like puppies. Like, sure, they may not be that expensive by themselves, but when you consider all the things you have to get for the general upkeep of them, they can get pricey. All right. I think that we talked about these issues last week, so I think we're good here. So, are there other issues that are not covered here that need to be addressed?
I don't think so.
All right, cool. Time permitting, pull request automation. Let's go ahead and get this open here.
So I think Charlie and Joelle are maybe on the call now, so feel free to jump in to add some color. I think this was supposed to be a discussion last week. We tried to make it async. Since we have a little bit of time and everyone is here. I think the main thing from my perspective is for us to think about, are there opportunities for improvement in the current PR flow? Whatever pain points we have or things that we would like to see, whether it is automated deployments from PRs happening or faster turnaround time for tests. I've noticed a few things. I think we should look at whether we're happy with how long does it take to run tests. We're also right now sort of split between Circle CI and GitHub Actions. That sometimes confounds things. And then the other thing that I noticed locally is that some of the code actually never gets compiled on any of these branches. So like the code in benches is, I think, broken right now. At least locally, it doesn't build for me. So that might be another thing if we want to sort of more proactively cache that. So yeah, anything else, Charlie, Joelle, you guys want to add here in terms of getting feedback from the team?
Regarding feedback, what you're looking at right now would primarily be really helpful to understand how useful that would be to other people. So namely, being able to deploy an environment per pull request that developers could use to either run manual or automated tests on. They could share test results. It's all documented here, and there's kind of like a small demo that I put in this page. So any feedback on that? We're also looking for just other ideas, because while we could help implement what we think might be valuable to you, there might be other things that we're not aware of that you would like or need. And yeah, so that's it.
How much compute resources do we have at our disposal?
Well, for what exactly? For like an environment for the pull request?
Yeah, one thing that we had to shut down because we were OOMing Circle CI is doing code coverage tests, for example.
So things like code coverage tests, that might be something that like a GitHub action would handle, possibly.
Better.
But like the pull request environment, that would run in our internal infrastructure, PBC infrastructure. So like the Kubernetes clusters. So that would be more variable. Like if it needs more resources, we could throw more resources at it. But I'm not sure something like code coverage testing would, I would think that would run in like a GitHub action, right?
That's why I'm asking, like, if GitHub isn't going to give us enough RAM, that might not be an option.
Is that currently a GitHub action and is failing out?
It's a Circle CI action that's failing out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, we could try it for GitHub. It might be better than Circle CI. It might throw the same error. But if it throws the same error, then we could definitely try it in our internal infrastructure.
Yeah, I hope we don't have to. I hope it doesn't come to that necessarily. I'd rather just have GitHub do it for us. But
Same.
It's one of the biggest pain points, the most chronic pain point I think we have right now with things that aren't being done on pull requests or aren't being done on GitHub Actions.
Okay. I thought that everything that was happening in Circle CI is now happening in GitHub. I just thought that like there was some duplication, like we're doing the same thing in two places.
Yeah, not yet. So
okay.
Circle CI is still running basically our unit tests. So there's like a handful of tests that are still happening on Circle CI that could just be ported over to GitHub Actions. And then code coverage would need to be added back in because currently they're disabled because of out of memory problems. I think that those out of memory problems could probably be solved in GitHub Actions, especially because if out of memory is really a huge issue for us, we could always sort of run our own GitHub Actions infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then the other pull request automation related thing, which is also not necessarily related to like deploying on our infrastructure, but is something that is a pain point, is tagging releases. So I know this is a old topic of yours, Charlie, but I think that we could do some automated tagging of releases when we merge next to master, or at the very least, like some sort of GitHub action that rejects a PR from next to master if it doesn't convey enough information to generate a new tag. And then the other is an occasional pain point, which is that Next always needs to receive updates from master. Like Next should always be mergeable into master. So if someone opens a PR against master, like right now, like they need to just remember to merge it back to Next. But a GitHub action could do that automatically or reject if it's not possible. So
Okay, I'll have to think about that one a little bit.
yeah.
Do you know if merges from Next into master, are they squashed and merged or just a traditionally merged?
Traditionally, we don't do any squashing in the Stacks blockchain repo because we're ideologues.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, for this case, squashing would actually kind of be problematic. You usually want to squash if like the source branch that you're merging from, so like in this case it would be Next, would be deleted after the merge.
Yeah.
If it's a long-lived branch, like you want Next to always live on, you'd be better off just doing a traditional merge.
Yeah.
One thing that will likely be a nice to have maybe in a few weeks is we could maybe set up some network level tests where the act of opening a PR, or at least like the act of like the precondition of merging Next to master or tagging a release or something could be spin up a bunch of VMs or a bunch of containers in our infrastructure and run some smoke tests on things like transaction relaying, block relaying, micro block relaying, etc. Like simulating like a fast run, a speed mode of the current test net.
Yeah, I can see that being useful with like sort of integrated in that environment that would get spun up for the PR.
Yeah.
Would that be like an automated set of tests that would run?
I'm shooting for that because I mean I need that for my own purposes right now.
Yeah.
Having a way to spin it up having a way to set up the environment automatically, that would be the huge win because right now that's a manual thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's like a distinction between basically two kinds of tests. So one is like short run tests, like we spin up a Docker container that is like self-contained. It does all the things it needs to do, and then it outputs 1 or 0. And afterwards, nothing exists. And then the other long-lived kind of test is, I think, what Charlie is describing here, where it spins up a whole environment. Maybe you run some automated tests against it, but then it's still running at the end of it.
Okay.
That was kind of like our first go at that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if having it continue running afterwards is not helpful to you guys, then we can just have it so that like if we have automated tests, it would run the automated tests and then automatically shut down that
Yeah.
PR environment and just display the results perhaps in like a comment for the pull request.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's something we can think about and probably decide on later whether or not like we would want it automatically torn down or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I think at first blush, especially while we're developing the automated tests, that it would probably be useful for it to just like still be running, because then you can fire new commands against it and then later include those as automated tests.
So are there any, like you just mentioned some like networking tests would be helpful here. Are there any automated network or smoke tests like that currently exist?
Nope. Working on
Okay.
them still.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, working on the framework in which we can run those still.
And do you expect to have any tests written before mainnet, or is the goal to fill that in after mainnet?
We'll have something before mainnet out of necessity in order to do things like testing microblocks, for example.
Okay.
We can have this conversation later though, like, but it sounds like it's feasible at a high level.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything else on pull request automation?
Not for me. You have anything, Jay Wiley?
I do not.
All righty, cool. That's it for our agenda. Anything else that is not yet covered?
Nothing on mine.
All righty, cool. Go ahead and stop.
All right. Thanks all. So let's try to get Jude's PR merged in soon, and then we'll likely need a reset to get everything deployed.
Yep. Well, let's make sure it works first.
Yeah.
I know that we wanted to do like a bit of a smoke test on it first. No need to kill the test net just yet.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.